Okay. Um, that was annoying. Anyway,
be massive objects, right? But light is massless. So I always thought that it shouldn't be affected by gravity. But then I learned that the path of the light can.
okay, so we're going to skip some things. We're going to get to the end of it. Okay, here's the thing. The beginning of his video is like starting with common notion of gravity being some kind of attraction stuff. And again, here's the thing. He's actually right because when you talk about okay, the elephant was a bit extra, but it doesn't matter. It's fine. Um Eventually we get to the light bending, but light doesn't bend. It's not that light is bending, it's that, oh, and we'll get to his conclusion, which of course I have. The problem is he's right. So here's how this works. The Earth is accelerating in a direction. We all know that it's going around the sun. So it's kind of stupid that he says it's the Earth expanding as a question. This is not something that even needs to be said, but it's like a cliffhanger idea. I'll hand wave that. I don't care very much.
All lead to space-time curvature of general relativity. Stay tuned for the scenes from the next
And space-time curvature is absolute nonsense. Um, so if this understanding is that because starts with like some explanation about how stuff like a ball or whatever else, they don't have the same mass, so then why would they all experience gravity? It's because the Earth is moving up towards these objects at a speed. So, like in a vacuum chamber, even a photon is going to accelerate or is going to be. The Earth is accelerating towards the photon at the same rate as it is everything else. This is true. So when people are looking for the gravity particle, they're idiots and they don't even understand this basic thing that people already understand. It's annoying. Why are people looking for the gravity particle? It doesn't exist. It's dumb. The problem is I actually believe what he's saying because he's not the only one who said it. But not only that, but because it is true. The Earth is moving through space. That's the thing that like at the end he says it like here or something.
to the bottom in the same time. And that means the speed of light would be different at the top and the bottom.
No, that's not at all how that works. Because it doesn't travel a further distance diagonal in regards to. Listen, according to light, because according to literally everyone outside of the scenario, just replace this whole moving platform or the Earth with a target that is moving. The diagonal behavior that is observed in the light that is moving is an illusion because it's the target that's moving, not the light. The light, according to Einstein, is just moving straight. and this is again true. I've seen other videos talk about this. It makes a full bunch of sense because, and the only reason that why light would bend this way is if you're moving at speeds, if your planet or rocket or whatever is moving at speeds relative to the speed of light, that over a certain amount of time, the planet has moved, and so where light would have hit has now changed. There is no diagonal function of light in this scenario. So it's a bad way of me explaining it because I actually want you to watch this video.
This is why light curves down. Not because gravity is pushing, not because gravity is pulling on it and there is some force acting on it. No. Because there is no gravity. It's us who's accelerating upwards. So obviously, even if light is massless, you can see it appears to bend down from up.
So, of course, this brings up the question, well, how do you explain okay, so this explains local gravity phenomenon when it comes to a body or an accelerated thing versus another object. It does not, however, explain things like the connection between the Earth and the Sun, or the Moon and the Earth, or Jupiter and the Sun, and everything is orbiting around this central pivot point, which is slightly adjacent from the Sun because of the Jupiter's mass pulling on the Sun's, or like both of them being in the same pull. How do you explain this? And this is the one thing that's like, okay, you've explained local gravity distortion, inertial type of gravity thing. It's not something to say you've it's the problem is the word gravity is explaining multiple different phenomenon, and we are not using different words for what gravity is, like the gravity of a black hole pulling in something nearby. Is the black hole actually pulling stuff in, or is it just falling towards it? And the interesting thing about that is you got whole stars being eaten up by a black hole. So there's that weird thing that happens, and you must think it has to have some kind of gravitational thing. But you can think of the gravity of a black hole not as gravitational, but magnetic. And when you start thinking of the attraction of other bodies as magnetic connections and local gravity to be inertial relationships, then you don't have the same misconceptions and you stop using words like gravity for what it isn't. So what you're feeling right now on Earth is not gravity. Or it's not what should be called gravity, because, or it is gravity and the connection between Earth and the Moon, or Earth and the Sun, and everything and the Sun is a completely different thing. It is not gravity. It's ironic that mass has to do with everything, but I mean, the mass also has to do with how much stuff there is to attract. So there could also be that. And so it's not as cut and dry to say the word gravity. It's not as cut and dry to say the word mass. Even he says something about mass, because in equations, well, you got mass and gravity, and what does it mean in the mass equation here versus the mass equation there? Well, it's mass acceleration, which is why there's two letters and they refer to each other. It's not just one thing, it's not just mass, it's the effect of the feeling of being accelerated.
Isn't that beautiful?
And it's the effect of the manipulate of mass in the Earth's gravity, for example. And it's interesting to think that depending on how you have your understandings, you can really get things screwed up. I still don't believe there's any curvature of space-time because that is different, although, yeah, now that you see the bending of light as an illusion, then you have to also conclude that other curvature of space-time nonsense is also just an illusion. It's not a fact of reality, more of a byproduct of multiple things having their interactions. Anyway, so the conclusion is he's right. This is the first time I've shown a video where I'm like, okay, wait, no, here's the, and then, no, actually, he's right. That's the thing. It's an example of we have this whole idea of gravity being a force. PBS spacetime ignores inertia whatsoever, and they just say we're going to make a bigger hadron collider or whatever, look for the gravitational particle, and that's just not how it works. You don't find the graviton, it doesn't exist. But there is some kind of attractive thing happening. We can't deny that because of the relationship between Jupiter and the Sun, or its orbiting factor is like they are connected. So if you think about how things can be connected, you think of electromagnetism, you think of electrons orbiting protons, and they're similar. And the thing is, everything's made out of electrons, protons, and neutrons. So if you have that kind of material and energy that's everywhere, and it feels the current that is from all of the different things nearby, then the EM field is going to be all pulling, and eventually all mass will have this equal force that like everything in the solar system is contributing to how the sun moves around the galaxy. So that means if we wanted to, we can organize things. We can change how the sun is manipulated. We can change how any of the planets are manipulated. We could make it so that we could have the Earth maybe. It's easy to think of ways of how to speed up the Earth's speed so we have a faster day, night cycle, so we have actually less time in the day, or slow it down and we have more time in the day. And technically we would like to speed it up, I think. And it brings a lot of other ideas to the table. But anyhow, I'm not actually going through this entire video, I'm just saying he's right. And that should mean something, because when I say you're right, you've actually, the problem is everyone else. And, or at least he's right in this video. There is, or at least he's right in this video, in the majority of the video. I can't give him bad marks, except for there's the end. The end disturbs me.
In the same time. And that means the speed of light would be different at the top and the bottom.
Let's listen to this
Isn't
actual.
that beautiful? Isn't that beautiful?
Uh-huh.
But the equivalence principle actually brings more questions than it answers. For example, if the path of the light is curved, that means the top of the light travels more distance compared to the bottom in the same time. And that means the speed of light would be different at the top and the bottom. Doesn't that violate Einstein's own special relativity postulate? Does that mean Einstein has actually shot himself in the foot over here? How does he explain this?
And literally, I'm just gonna call this cliffhanger nonsense, and
And what does it even mean to say that the ground is accelerating up? Does that mean that the whole Earth is expanding?
of course not. I mean, the effect of the Earth moving through space and everything else, like we have all sorts of stuff happening with the tectonic plates and whatever else, that's a whole other nonsense. But the Earth's not expanding, we're just moving through space. It's a silly question, and again, cliffhanger, wow, not important.
And how does this all lead to space-time curvature of general relativity? Stay tuned for the...
Now, here's the thing. If I were to, if he says the correct thing about space-time curvatures, I'm going to talk about it. Not today, not this video, but eventually I may get to that. And he may or may not be right. But in this one, he's right. So there's something about elephants. Gravitational force is more like what happens to mass under the force of an Earth pushing at it as it goes through the solar system at the speed that it's going, as well as in regards to it's not just the speed going through the orbit, it's also its rotation. Part of the effect of the Earth pressing on everything is its spin. It's something that uniforms all of the force that we experience on one side of the Earth and the other side of the Earth, or the top and the bottom. As well as, it would be interesting to note that perhaps, maybe, when the top pole of the planet, okay, that's a horrible place to stop. When the, pretend that you are at the North Pole, right? The Earth is on a tilt. So if you're on the North Pole and you didn't have the centripetal force, whatever. I'm not pronouncing that right. I know right. I know I don't care. Um, Centrifugal, whatever. I don't know. The spinning force of the Earth helping you pull down. You would think that perhaps there is some other amount of gravitational constant that you would find at the North or South poles, because something else to do with things. And if the spin has anything to do with it, then if we change our speed, we change gravitational constants. Or is it just momentum through space? That's the thing. And I think it's both. I think it's the spin plus the motion through space. And also the fact that the change of direction of the Earth is consistent, so that not every part of the Earth, besides the fact that it's spinning, its own, like, I forget if the tilt of the spin of the Earth is also changing over time. Like, for example, relative to the sun. But it's everything has to be relative to everything else. You gotta figure out something to be solid about. This is a whole other bunch of nonsense. But again, time doesn't dilate. Light doesn't dilate. Light isn't doing anything weird when it goes through this weird path that he's described because there's nothing weird about that path. It's just an artifact of the planet is moving. So at one moment it was further away from the light, and at another moment it's closer to the light. That's all.
Perspective, and that's why from inside the elevator, or the elevator is at rest, remember. So which means if I just switch on the flashlight, the photon has to bend down. This is why gravity affects.
I will just comment that it is appearing to bend down. It's just that other photons are being let out of the flashlight at a higher position than the old photons that traveled that distance and are now at the position they were when they were launched originally. So that's what he's getting at. And that is definitely true.
Going slightly down. And the same thing continues. They will see the photon going down from their perspective, and that's why from inside the elevator, or the elevator is at rest, remember. So which means if I just
I'm gonna hand wave the elevator being at rest idea because its motion is because it's sitting on the planet, obviously it's moving through space along with the speed of the planet, whatever. He's still getting things right. There are a few things that he might misspeak about. Just a couple things, small things. And I'm not going to give a damn what he says for cliffhangers. That's just, hey, do you want to know about some other mysteries of science? He presents them as mysteries because obviously the answers need to be shown up in the other videos. That'd be better. Whatever. I got no problem with this video. I would say he gets a because of certain misspeaking, which is just saying it's the illusion of the light bending down. It's an illusion. So I can't give him an A plus. Now, what is every... Gravity doesn't change light. It changes space that light travels through. The straight line through space if space is curved. Nope. Not curved. F. Literally, you don't pay attention to how reality works. The object is moving, so it was originally at one position. It was originally down. Give me something to work with. It was originally. Just give me the fucking. The ground was originally down here, and the light was shining um up here, right? And then
affects the
shut up. And then the ground was moving up, so the light seems closer and higher than it was. But that's an illusion. The flashlight is higher, so then the next beam of light is going to be higher up. And as it moves up, flashlight is higher up, ground is everything is doing it. And you see the light appear to bend. It does not bend. And gravity doesn't change light, it changes space as the light travels through it. Listen, you can have gravitational lensing. You can have stuff going around a star because the star has electromagnetic fields, and light is electromagnetic. So the attractiveness of the star could bend the light. That doesn't mean gravity's doing it. It means electromagnetism is doing it. Because there can be magnetic forces that can bend light. So why not just think in those terms? Instead of saying this, no, you get a freaking F, dude. Um, tried to explain it to my dog. It growled from what I was saying. I wonder if my wife will understand. Instead, I will share it with those that have watched. We are one. Keep it to ourselves. It's better that way. It's morbid. Short answer is gravity doesn't attract particles to each other or bend space. No. No. Yeah. No. Newton pours water into the glass. Einstein moves the glass to meet the water. Listen, this is so true because it's the water is leaving the vessel because the opening is there. Now, so here's the question. Why would it stay in the glass? It's literally everything else is moving upward. The water just stays there. So it ends up pouring down, right? This is true. I would like to see Einstein accelerates the glass upward without moving it in curved space. No! Shut the fuck up with the curved space time! No bullshit! I hate that. See, his video's fine. It's the comments that are stupid, but they're comments. I don't care what they think. Unless one of them is Hank Green, then I have to really be pissed off because he's supposed to be smart. Don't fucking try me, bro. Do not make a mistake. I will at you. So hard. Or Kyle Hill. I don't care. Kyle Hill has made these mistakes also. I'm tired of him. But Hank Green, it's not that I idolize him. I think that I haven't seen enough I haven't seen mistakes from him as much as I have other people, so I'm glad about the fucking space curve bullshit. The curve was illusion, bro. Okay, I'm done. I don't care about comments. Comments can go on for years, and they can all be stupid, and I don't care. I would love to educate everyone. You've heard my video, you've heard my understanding of things. Space-time curvature is a goddamn hoax. Shut the fuck up. I'm sorry. Not sorry. Space-time curvature is a goddamn freaking hoax. It's horrifying that people are still stuck on this whole idea of space-time curvature. Please go away from it. It is not real. Or that is to say, it's a freaking illusion. And, or, again, space-time curvature is trying to put in this space has some effect with time. And you have to realize time dilation is something that is a misunderstanding of how atomic clocks are working at speeds. If you're constantly slowing down the atomic clock, then its bounces become closer and closer together, right? If it doesn't have to move as far per second to get to the place where it's going to bounce, if you change that randomly, then you have to understand that space-time would literally, like, the light isn't traveling the same distance. So it has to take, if, let's say you're going 10,000 meters per second. If you accelerate, if you understand that the tick of a clock is based off a photon, and the photon is going at near 300 million meters per second, okay, then it takes a certain amount of seconds. It takes a certain amount of a fraction of a second in order for that light to go from A to B and bounce inside the atomic clock. So the moment that you slow down, the amount of distance you have traveled is less, so the amount of time it takes to go that distance will be less. It will tick faster. And if you accelerate, it will take longer for the light to travel the same distance. It's the same as moving the target further away and the light source being stationary. Now you would say, okay, but inside of an atomic clock, everything is so close together, how can you even think about it as being a different distance? Because imagine if you have a constant deceleration or a jolt, right? Some parts, like the front of the ship, might experience a sudden slowdown on one path of the trip, and then the rest of it later on has also slowed down a little bit, so it takes even longer to bounce back than it normally would. The tick ends up being longer. Oh my god, there's a hair in my straw. I hate that. The burden of long hair. Listen, You have to understand a satellite is constantly changing its velocity. When we took atomic clocks, we had 3 of them. We traveled with the rotation of the Earth on a plane at a regular speed and against the rotation of the Earth at the same regular speed. But the speed of the rotation of the Earth, and maybe even its travel through space, changed how far that plane actually traveled. It's like if you're moved backwards down the train, moving with the rotation of the Earth is moving forwards on the train. So your total distance adds up. So even if you end up where you started, you actually, in space, have moved a greater distance. And that is important because light notices this distance difference. And therefore, for the longer distance traveled, as you moved with the rotation of the Earth, it experienced a longer tick rate, meaning time would have essentially slowed down according to the clock because inaccurate clock. And then when you went the opposite direction, it experienced less distance, so the ticks were faster, so the supposed time dilation, quote unquote, makes it look like the clock ended up being a little faster. But that's because the rotation of the Earth, the total speed, the total distance over time had changed. One for the positive, one for the negative, and the other one is with the speed of the rotation of the Earth. Not 150 positive or negative, but with it. So it has a regular speed and a regular tick rate. It is said to be a standard clock, but it is not standard. It's not free from inertia. That's why you can have inertia of the Earth and the plane. You cancel the speed of the rotation of the Earth from the speed of the plane, or the plane and the total. I mean, you have to consider it as if you're moving backwards on a treadmill or whatever else. Similarly, that the Earth is just a spinning treadmill, and then you try going reverse the rotation of the Earth, right? It's like moving backwards on the treadmill. Compared to land, you hardly moved. If you end up moving the same speed as the treadmill, same speed as the train. If it's the same speed, you haven't gone anywhere compared to the ground. And if you're at an accelerated speed, then you're actually moving backwards. And if you're moving forward with any amount of speed, then you move even greater distance. You have to think about yourself versus the background, not just versus the Earth and assuming the Earth is not moving. The Earth is moving. It's the whole point of this video. That's why space-time curvature bullshit, or the time dilation nonsense, which is part of what influences people to believe space-time curvature, again, Time dilation is nonsense. It's an illusion. People need to grow past it. I'm done. There's always more later to talk about.